coming. We really appreciate your support in this discussion about neurodiversity and inclusivity. I would love to introduce our panel, who is going to tell you about their why and why they're here. So, Christa, would you like to start?
Yeah. So my name is Christa Holmans. I'm an autistic adult, and I run the Neurodivergent Rebel blog. I was diagnosed late, and it really did just shake up everything, answered a lot of questions, and just set me on this path to kind of change the way people talk about autism, because it's really a lot of women do, unfortunately.
Hi, I'm Linda Howard, and I imagine most of you can tell I'm not an original Texan. Moved here from Virginia in 2014. Have been in this particular field with special education, people with developmental disabilities for about 30 years. Retired a couple times, but just have to go back to it.
Great. I'm David Hall. I'm the CEO and Chief Guide of Life Guides for Autism Neuroguides. We're a 501c3 nonprofit based here in Austin. We've been operating for about 2 years now, and we provided services for dozens of autistic adults. People always ask, what age is that? Well, 16, 17, and that range on up into, I think our senior clients are probably in their early 40s. We provide one-on-one unique life coaching for autistic persons. We focus on 3 key areas. Those are social, occupational, and relational. And we do that by utilizing our methodology we call E3. It's pretty simple. Encouragement, which everybody needs encouragement. Equipping, and engagement. So I can explain those later if you'd like, but that's what we do. And we're delighted to do this tonight. This is our first attempt at just having a general community conversation on neurodiversity. And I've been working on Emily over here, our moderator, to possibly extend these and do these maybe once a quarter, different parts of Austin. And again, just to spark more dialogue and community conversation. So.
Yeah. And I am your moderator tonight. My name is Emily Brown, and I am the CEO and founder of the Empowerment Network. And we're a startup to help kids with career exploration. So we're going to go ahead and get started, but before we get into the questions, we're going to have David kind of explain what neurodiversity is and his passion behind it and how he's moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's really important. So let me start with this. There's a movement going on right now. It started picking up speed a few years ago, and it's actually got a lot of steam right now. But as with any movement, now I consider neurodiversity movement to be the very pinnacle of human civil rights movement, not civil rights, but human rights movements. Because neurodiversity is essentially respecting all persons, regardless of their neurological function, regardless of their bodies. It's respecting and dignifying all persons and seeing them as fully human persons. So it's really hard to escape that kind of, there's no easy outs there. Neurodiversity is all persons, seeing them as fully human persons. So that's what I consider to be true neurodiversity, that understanding. And it's a beautiful movement. It's happening on social media, as Christa's over there nodding her head. It's happening on social media. It's happening in a lot of arenas. Our hope is to spark dialogue in the general population, because there's so many misunderstandings. There's so much bad information about what neurodiversity is, and even autism itself. So we're just wanting to start dialogue, and we thought we'd do that tonight in just a very relaxed setting. Emily's got some questions for each of us, and use those questions just to help you think about the dialogue and ask us questions. We just want to talk to you. That's what we want to do tonight. We want to have a friendly conversation. Yeah.
So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started with the questions. Like David said, please feel free to chime in. We want to hear your thoughts. We are encouraging a discussion. Not just our panelists, of course, are here to shed some light on it, but we do want to know what you guys think as well, okay? All right. So this first question is going to be a little bit about the changes that we've seen in the past 10, 15 years. We've seen a lot of change when it comes to diversity in the workplace in regards to race, and in regards to gender. So how do you guys feel that plays a part in what we're looking forward to with neurodiversity?
Yeah. All right. Okay. I'll go first. So what's interesting with diversity and inclusion, if you're not considering neurodiversity and disability inclusion in your diversity inclusion, you're missing a big piece. And then the thing is with neurodiversity specifically, people generally, at least when you're excluding someone based on gender and all these other issues, sexuality, whatever it is, because we're familiar with these issues. We've heard about these issues, we understand these issues. But with neurodiversity and autism and a lot of different disability-related issues, people don't know. So you get a lot of unintentional discrimination where policies may be written in ways that are completely discriminatory. And you have no idea because people are just unaware. So we're at this point where just people having understanding of what's really going on is really even lacking.
Yes, as far as what I have experienced, in my years, I look at the individuals and I try to work with other people in our particular field as job coaches. These are individual people. They are people just like we are. Everybody's different. If we were all made the same way, it would be a bad world. We just have to accept people the way they are. That's the way we were created, and we just go from there. Pay close attention. I really stress factors to pay close attention to the individuals, what they say, maybe what they do, and then try to put things together from that.
That's good. So I've got a couple of views on that. One is that I'm hoping that humanity is growing up. We're maturing. It's been very important to have these movements, gender equity, civil rights, all these movements which have created momentum for seeing all persons as fully human, as belonging, as having a place in the human family. Neurodiversity, again, is that defining moment of what that is. And by the way, I'm going to take this moment to maybe explain a little bit more. Maybe I could have added this earlier, but when we talk about autism, we talk about neurodiversity. I want to really distinguish that, to say that, because one of the things I always hear is, we've got intellectual disabilities, we've got health issues, we've got comorbidity things, we've got all these things, and I want to say when we talk about neurodiversity and autism, we're talking about by itself, just that, okay? There are people, autistic people and people who do not have autism, who have health problems, health issues, intellectual disabilities. Some people just have intellectual disabilities. It's across the whole range. So I want to uncouple, if that's fair, that discussion of autism from all these medical comorbidities. Because again, there are people who do not have autism who have these same conditions, okay? So there are two different things. So again, that's my thoughts. So Emily, thoughts? And we want to ask these guys what their thoughts are on that question.
Guys, give us some feedback.
Joe, you mentioned the number of policies that tend to discriminate against those who are neurodiverse. Could you give me an example of what you consider to be the worst policies?
Yeah.
And how do you believe we can go about changing them?
So, certain policies, the worst off the top of my head would be companies where they have hot desking, where you don't have an assigned seat, or open office. You have the open office and they want everyone to always be in that one communal space, or, where companies are structured around, they call it mandatory fun. Anyone concerned of mandatory fun? It's you're expected to be there, even though you don't, those kinds of things. The systems are just kind of set up in a bad way. And then hiring policies, and the hiring process is often a big obstacle as well. And that's where it starts.
Yeah, I know you were discussing comorbidity. I'm pretty sure that everyone else who's not also neurodiverse tends to hate those same high testing policies.
Yeah, and I'll add in too, I'll echo what Christa said for open space, open office designs. I hear a lot of that with the clients I serve and families and from businesses interacting with them. It was one of those great ideas that was just turned out to be not so great. And not only neurodivergent people, but just neurotypical people. A lot of them hate it too. They may not be saying anything, but because, for example, the clients that I serve, I don't know if it's 100%, but I'm going to say almost the majority of them have sensory processing integration disorder challenges, and you as a speech therapist know what I'm talking about too. So, sensory inputs are amplified. They're greatly. My own son, my oldest, he's 19, sensory processing disorder. In fact, all my kids are challenged with it. He can hear you. It's a great party trick, by the way, too. He can hear, and sometimes not so fun, he can hear you on the other side of a huge room, just talking in a normal tone, with your back to him. He hears every word. His sensory inputs for auditory are so extremely elevated. So you put him in an open office where somebody's phone rings or somebody drops a stapler or something, there's no cushion, there's no barriers, he's overloaded. So, and that's just him, and there's millions of people that are overloaded, right, Christa? All the time?
Yeah, a lot of the changes too will benefit your overall workforce. And we hear a lot of things too about, just this falls to neurodiversity, highly sensitive person. You hear a lot of that on the internet now as a thing, or just introverts. Your introverted people will appreciate some of the stuff. So it's something that can benefit your entire workforce, not just your neurodiversity and your neurodivergent people. So that's something to think about.
Martin Luther King, what benefits one benefits all. That's true. So, community.
All right. So, David, in your article, Autistic Uprising, A New Rebellion of Hearts and Minds,
yes,
published on the Medium,
yes,
you wrote, perhaps social media has provided an instrument for this neurodiversity movement, but the fuel for this rebellion is the yearning of neurodivergent people who have a place of dignity, societal recognition of being accepted at not less, but simply different.
Did I write that?
You did.
All right. What a power words there. So let's take social media for example. I'm not against social media, by the way. I use Instagram and Twitter, and I'm on LinkedIn, and you can connect with me there. So I think there's a lot of positives to social media and to technology in general. My concern has been all along is that, as Johan Hari would say and Douglas Rushkoff would say with Team Human, is that it tends to be a placebo. There's a placebo effect for social media. People can find their entire world in social media. And what happens is, I think it's fair to say we can easily become anemic in our relationship muscles, if that makes any sense. We sort of lose our ability to connect with one another effectively, and we lose our ability to dialogue effectively. And I think it affects it. I think it's a profound effect, and especially I think for autistic, neurodivergent people who are hungry, and as I said, I use the word yearning because that's what I see. They're yearning and hungry for true connectivity, and so they find connectivity in a sense on social media, but we need a lot more. It's great to just eat cheeseburgers, but you need some fruit and other things too. We need a whole basket of connectivity that I think we don't have. So, yeah.
What you do in the way that you give back, what is something that directly affects that and helps that?
Okay, so when I decided to start Lifeguides for Autism Neuroguides 2 years ago, I did that because I looked across the landscape of all of the organizations, autism organizations, state, federal, local, government agencies, all the organizations, and my business consultant was pushing this, got to do it, so I did it. It was good for me. But as I looked at it, and I looked at outcomes, I'm really big on outcomes. I love hearing what people are doing with their organizations, but show me results. What is happening? And as I looked at outcomes for autistic persons in the United States, and by the way, that's estimated between 4.5 million and maybe 6 million in the United States, diagnosed and even undiagnosed persons, what I was seeing was so profound and so shocking for me. As I looked at it, I saw just extreme anxiety, disconnection, incredible chronic depression rates, mental health issues, an unemployment rate. This always just boggles my mind. Estimated between 88% and 91% unemployment of autistic persons in the United States. I don't know, what's the rate of employment in the United States? U.S. Labor Department, like 3.3% or something, 3.2. So, I mean, that's miles of separation. And the one that, this is the one that, I'm just trying to cry here when I talk about it. This is what gets me up in the morning. This is why this is at the core of it, it's why I get up and go, let's do this. Let's reach more autistic people and their families, is because they have what's estimated to be 9 times the average suicide rate in the United States. So autistic persons are taking their own lives in droves, and we got to stop it. So, yeah.
All right, so this next question is geared towards Linda and Christa. But school systems around the world claim to cater to neurotypical and neurodiverse children, but often contain holes when it comes to enriching or the enrichment of autistic children in ways that benefit them. So in your opinion, what can we do within our school systems to help accommodate neurodiverse minds more effectively?
As far as I can see in working with the school system for a little over a year, is we need more training of staff and more exposure for staff to relate to the individuals. And I'm also saying in working with Dave and autism here and actually being more exposed to it myself, I can see in the school system that we have particular rooms or areas where the students with autism, when they want to get away or they want to move or they have that freedom to be in that area. In fact, I have evaluation next week, so I plan to address some of this with my supervisor.
Yeah, I love the idea of having a room to get away. The other thing too, though, is I'd love to push people to go a step further and say, what can we do to just make the classroom environment in general less overwhelming? Back to what we're saying about the offices, make it good for everyone. Do the lights need to be that bright in the classroom at all times? Maybe turn on the read, get reading lamps or something, but can all the kids, like at the office, we like to have standing desks, right? If we can have standing desks and we can know some of us. We want the option. What they have now is they have a push button and it can go up or down, so you can have it sit or stand. So if you need to move, or like if you want a ball under your chair and you need to sit on something else besides a chair, you can do that. But we don't let kids do that in the classroom. We don't let them make their classroom environment more comfortable. And then too, it's a lot of things, for me when I was in school, it was just like behavior problems. And so I'm really understanding the root of what some of the behavior actually means, because I was really mostly overwhelmed in school a lot, and I was struggling, but I was getting in trouble because I was overwhelmed and I was struggling, So just really looking more at, don't just label these kids bad kids, because a lot of times the kids are labeled as a bad kid and dismissed, and that's kind of a problem. It's a big problem.
Yeah, I want to follow up on what Chris is saying too. So, and all the people that I serve and work with, including my own family, it's been profoundly impressed upon me as to the level of personal energy autistic persons have to exert in their daily living to maintain themselves and to not have sensory overloads, and you know, we used to call them meltdowns. I still call them meltdowns or shutdowns. One of the two. Shutdowns just run away, hide. But I think that we have in our schools, and I know this is probably worst case scenarios, but it's where things are going, is we have all these systems in place to contain and constrain and cause conformity, discipline for these neurological people. I know that, in fact, at my son's school, and I love those guys, but they have literally a horseshoe filled with counselors and officers with nightsticks and they're all there, and they have a room that's designed to be like muffle you, and you can lose your mind in it and hit the walls, and they're trying to get you to calm down. Well, my thinking is, if neurodivergent people, autistic people, are sensory overloaded to the extreme all the time, right? Why don't we look at revamping and changing the narrative of their atmosphere and their environment, and let's lower that down for them, right? And when you lower it down and they don't have to just be splitting apart all the time trying to contain themselves, they're going to learn better, they're going to think better, they're going to be more community minded. And I think the beauty of that too is, and what I'm trying to do is create senses of true community for all persons, is when you do that, when you stop separating people like that, you create opportunities for community building, right?
Can I make 2 comments? First, let's say Christa. Christa, right? Christa?
Christa?
Yes. I don't disagree with your comment on standing. I suggest we do love them. But from what I've seen, they tend to be offered as a trade-off as you move from more of a closed office plan into an open office plan. So it's the hook to try to get people to enjoy the atmosphere that everyone hates, both the neurodiverse and the neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And it's always focused on cost rather than culture. And Dave, you were talking about, it's almost a contradiction because the neurodiverse do not always work well with the general population, especially with the current methods of instruction that typical schools use.
Yes.
So would it be smarter to actually pull them off into their own learning area, much the way we do with groups with tag students? And how do you balance something like that against the need for inclusion?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer your question. I think we need to fight against that impulse. I think in everything, now I'm going to get to it. I think in every regard, in everything we do, not just with education, but with businesses and with homes and with communities, in every setting, I think we need to fight against and be creative about it. And be gentle about it and be wise about it. I think we need to fight against the impulse for separation. I think that is, am I right? That's the opposite of neurodiversity understanding. Separation is the opposite of community. It's the opposite of relationship. It is. So I hear what you're saying in one regard. It does create some calmness, but it's going in the wrong direction.
How do you balance those two, where you can maximize learning in a quieter environment, yet maximize inclusion, especially on courses where the amount of rigor may not be as needed? For instance, you have your science and maths in a more closed environment, and potentially the English and the social sciences in an open atmosphere. Which is, I think, the one thing we agree upon is the current teaching methodologies used tend to benefit almost no students.
Well, I'm going to speak up for the teachers in the room and say that, hey, teachers, rah. And I will say that we're all learning and growing, including teachers. And the way things were done 50 years ago are radically different today. So we're all growing, and teachers grow along with everyone else. I wrote on Twitter, I think it was, social media the other day, I said, I think you liked it, spacesuits. And I use the word spacesuits because I say every day in every way we take neurodivergent autistic people and we don't give them space helmets and we expect them to walk around on the Mars or something in these environments that are not healthy for them, and we expect them to just breathe. We don't need to make better spacesuits. We need to terraform, right, scientists? We need to terraform. We need to change the atmosphere to it's breathable for all persons. And so I think education systems are growing. I think teachers are growing. I think we have to, as a people, as human persons in community, we have to change our thinking around, and we need to start standing in the gap. I'm famous for saying that. Standing in the gap for autistic persons and speaking gently but assertively into the culture in workplaces and other places and saying, this is not friendly for all. Not saying this is not friendly for autistic persons. This is not friendly for all persons because we're all part of this community. Does that make sense?
It does, and at the same time, I'm not trying to talk down any of the teachers here because I know they do their very best.
Well, they'll talk to you later.
I'm married, otherwise I'm a cat.
Well, that is true. But she knows where to find out.
The point, part of it is, much like the desks that I talked about for all the others, it is a top-down push. So how do we, it's not necessary, I believe, to convince people on the lowest level of the pyramid, but how do we convert the leaders who will drive that new vision of better workplaces rather than a bastard idea of what people think millennials are with a 70s architecture, or schools that want to put everybody in class and try to maximize everybody and consequently get a zero for anybody.
Right. Well, I think what you're talking about is seeking out growing the understanding of leadership in businesses and education and community. You're talking about introducing in a very well-reasoned, winsome way neurodivergent people to leadership that they can affect change organization-wide. You know, one thing we have to get away from is this whole thing. We've been hanging on to this whole vision of autistic and neurodivergent people for the last 30 years. I think it's getting a little old now. I mean, you know, what happened last week? Was it Autism Awareness Month or something like that? Whatever. Okay, and all the puzzle pieces and colors. So they showed the movie Rain Man. Like all over the place, they're showing the movie Rain Man. Now listen, I like Dustin Hoffman, and 20 years ago I thought it was a pretty good movie. It doesn't. It sends an entirely wrong message. It says that all autistic persons are stereotypically the same, and they're probably have intellectual disabilities and have these savant things that you have to find out. And you know, they're just incredible. They can build rocket engines. No, they can't talk to them, but they're just, that's ridiculous. We just need to move beyond that. Everyone is unique. Everyone is different. Christa, do you agree with this? When you meet one autistic person, you've met one autistic person?
Yeah. I mean, just like everyone else, you know?
Yeah,
just like you know, just like a non-autistic person, everyone's an individual. Everyone has, you know, even the sensory differences and all that are completely different from one autistic person to the next.
So who are the teachers? Let's be stereotypes. Okay. I do substituting around our ISD, and in January, February, and March, so like 6 or 7 weeks, I was in the FAC class, functional academic classroom, and there are, I mean, among other things, the kids with autism. And they went to regular classes. They went. I mean, they had, like Joe said, like the basics of the science, math, English, and history. They were socially. They were in the just kind of in the classroom. But they had Spanish, dance, art, music. You know, different things that they go to classes with. But they had, you know, some of them had someone with them. Because some of these kids, they weren't autistic, and some had seizures and different things. So they had like adult with all times, but. you just need to, like it doesn't faze me, maybe because of not just like my kids, but the kids I've seen and all, like they can do something and like I'm like, oh, whatever, I mean, but to me it's normal, like the quirks, right? But I look into the sheer amount of paperwork. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous, like you can't, like it's like the teachers can't teach because all they do is paperwork all day.
Right.
So they have paraprofessionals that will teach you, it's incredible.
Absolutely.
One of the things I see a lot is actually a ton of stuff that I think some schools are doing to make learning environments more friendly. Just in so I work over in Westlake, and we have a lot of different options. So some of them are different seating choices, different desk choices, providing sensory tools, a lot of specialized training on the topic. So I think that there has been probably a lot of progress in that area. I think the other thing that's really tricky is just like we can't put anything under an umbrella, right? Everybody has different needs, and so if we're modifying an environment for one person that may or may not benefit everybody in that setting, and so part of that piece is really teaching them self-advocacy skills and making sure that it's really about communication in the end, so different people can decide what works for them or doesn't, and then that can be honored the best.
True. Good point.
And there are, I mean, I like having tunnel vision, just like the school where I work a lot and all, which is the same school my child who doesn't want to be, stuff pointed out.
We won't mention any names.
No, he went, I hated that school, it was awful, it's something for him. And then my other kids are there, like one went through there, and it was fabulous, it was a wonderful school. But I feel like as a parent, I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know what options there were. But I was also overwhelmed with 3 younger children, with others. And so I didn't know. But being a parent and being a teacher at that school, I see a lot more of, oh, this is how it works. We're showing them that. He was in 6th grade.
So were you notified of any programs or anything available,
No. We had lots of parent and counseling meetings, lots and lots. But I think that he kind of fell through the cracks. Like our daughter has like super dysfunctional disabilities, and for her it's clearly obvious what she needs and doesn't need and can't get and all that. And then the twins are completely neurotypical, too. And so with him, I feel like they did this and this and this, but there's like this little area where he went and just where it just didn't nothing over it, it was
So it's super bad.
right. Like stuff there at Cedar Valley, I saw classes. I'm like, oh, why couldn't he have been in that class? He didn't say he did it. They're like, oh, that's for whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, right. Like he was more intelligent than that. He wasn't. Like, and so there was nowhere. It was like you hit 8 out of 10 on everything. Well, I'm sorry, you hit 9 out of 10 in order to get in this, and you're like they're not right there.
Yeah, and I want to address that really quickly because that's an important point you're bringing up with this sort of expectation, and again, that maybe goes back to the Rain Man illustration. That expectation that autistic people are extraordinarily bright, and I'm going to just say this: I am happy with Dell and Microsoft and all these folks doing these programs of outreach and job training for autistic people, neurodivergent people, and training them to be great programmers and coders and all this stuff. But I'm going to say right now that a lot of the autistic people I work with and serve, they could care less about computers, okay? I think it's important that we engage people, assess people based on their unique individual attributes and find out what their strengths are. I've got autistic people I serve that want to be cooks, that want to work in museums, that want to be gardeners, that want to, it's across the board. Are there some that probably are going to be great computer programmers or coders or do some incredible things? Yes. And what about the people whose gifts are not extreme? They're autistic, but they just don't have any standout, throw the football all the way across the football field kind of skills. Find out, again, assess them, find their individual strengths, and provide opportunities for them to have good lives. you know? So I think we just need to kind of just step back and look at these compartments we've created and question them and say, is that really good for everybody to think that that's the model that we need to be thinking of? I don't think it is. So
Perhaps you can change the model. You
Well,
basically define this neurotypical and many of autism especially has recently been what we consider to be a spectrum disorder.
Yes.
So you now have a nice broad line that really knows what the individual boxes mean. And chances are, if you're shoving boxes, probably wrong.
Yeah.
Now, speaking as someone who's probably neuroatypical and probably part Asperger's, just because I was an engineer,
I would have done that.
how do you broaden the definition so you can actually have people who don't understand it, understand it? Which says,
Right.
imagine a scale instead of linear, now you expand it into 3 dimensions.
And that's what's happening.
Think
Yeah.
where you have your technical, non-technical, introvert, extrovert. So I'm writing another axis again. Much as you, every time you go to, say, Microsoft Paint, another program, you can easily choose a color out of the billions in your little circle. So why can't you use that with neurodiverse?
well, I think that's. Do y'all mind if I answer that? Because I think I want to address something. We all want. I mean, we're just humans. We want to know what we're talking about. We sort of can't help ourselves. We, box and label and put tags on things. We just do that. It helps us with understanding. We're seekers. We should be. But I don't think that's healthy necessarily when it comes to understanding neurodiversity and neurodivergent people. I think it sometimes is very limiting. And let me tell you, so this neurodiversity movement that's happening now, which is growing understanding that all persons, regardless of the workings of their minds or their bodies, are fully human and deserve opportunities and so on. I won't go through the whole thing again. But for example, right now in the United Kingdom, the UK, there's actually, it's become political, and it's actually they call them bills. It's being, they're trying to pass it through Parliament right now, and what it says is this, pretty dramatic. I mean, it's a little language, but it's huge in impact. And what they're saying is that autism is no longer a disability. Autism itself is not, see the looks? That's over there, it's across the ocean. But what they're saying, I like some parts of what they're saying. So let me quickly say that there are people, autistic people and non-autistic people, who need help. I need help. We all need some help. Okay, but there are people who have serious, severe medical conditions, intellectual disabilities. There are people who have varying needs of help. But what they're saying at the UK is, and I think it's radical, they're saying autism by itself, a neurodivergent thinker, is not necessarily a disabled person. That one thing, if you isolate it out, autism, just isolate that one thing away from all the medical stuff, comorbidities, ID, everything else, that is not a disability. And again, there are autistic people all around us in the world today who have zero other occurring conditions. They're just autistic people. And you probably work with some of them, Joe.
I may be one. I don't disagree with any of what you're saying.
I'm just saying that's what's happening.
And it's great to understand. However, to affect change
Yes.
and to convince others,
Yes.
especially the ones spending the money for it and providing leadership, you somehow need to quantify it for them.
That's fair. That's fair enough.
So how can we, again, maybe it's a contradiction, how do we quantify everybody down to the 10th decimal, yet maintain everyone is the same, everyone is...
Compromise?
It's another contradiction.
And we're going to have to compromise in some ways. We cannot have it all.
And that's pushing back too on that, it is good for everyone. It's not just good for your neurodivergent.
No, absolutely. But for it to be good for people, you have to find a way to aid, settle people. So how do sell it to people in a way they can understand without saying, you have to meet everybody else and figure it out on your own.
You know, unfortunately, right now it's just getting it's the information. People don't have the information. People don't understand it yet. So it's really trying to spread the information and trying to get that out there. Eventually, they're not going to be able to ignore it anymore. You know, do they want to be ahead of the curve? Do they want to be bleeding edge? Do they want to be cutting edge, or do they want to be behind? Because they will be behind if they don't jump on the movement now and they start working on the problems now.
Well, how do we define both the movement and the problem so they can take action? Most of these people, at least the ones I work with, they're not going to do anything unless you can show why.
Right.
And it's a lot easier to show why in their language than, unfortunately, the language we're all speaking right now.
And I think that's a really complex question when you get into it, and it's something that you have to address almost individually when you're facing something like that. And maybe you and David can have a one-off. That's something. No, but I mean, you know, it's almost on an individual basis when you talk about that, or when you're looking at it like that, because autistic persons have their own gifts and abilities and communicate effectively in different ways. And so you can't, have a broad picture and allow that to work for them if it doesn't even work for neurotypical.
Yeah, it is a complicated question.
Yeah.
One last thing I will add is, and Joe, this may go to what you're saying too, is sometimes the language fails. It just fails us. So we need visual examples, physical life examples. And this is one reason I love Christa, but I love having Christa as my friend and as my colleague and as a professional advisor, because there's nothing like, we can talk about autism, all we want to, but having an autistic woman stand up in front of people and say, I mean, that's right, like, I'm fully human, thank you very much, have a nice day. There's no way around that. I mean, right? It's right there.
It's right there, it's right in front of you. But what I'm saying is, if we're trying to look at those on the spectrum as individuals according to their needs, we can probably look at the people who are spending the money trying to change the system in the same way.
You're saying drive change. I get it. And
if
here's
you're
the drive
trying
change.
to change, it is contradictory in some ways to what we want to achieve holistically, because there you need to be able to.
And all I can say, Joe, is we're getting there. We're getting there.
Do this.
Yes.
Don't get over all Americans say,
Yeah.
do this, and do this.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Well, and when I
By doing it, how do you find it so they understand?
So what I do a little bit on my own is I do consulting with firms for neurodiversity, and when I get in with an organization, it's on a very intimate level, saying this specific policy, this, we'll go through and highlight and redline and mark things. This is what you've got to change and why.
And why?
But that's less than like the broader term. That's organization specific. I get in there and I'm like, this is wrong, and we talk about why it's wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a question of somebody in the audience. I'm looking at you. Something that's really been impressed upon me, and by the way, I'm going to just say, look, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I thought completely differently about neurodiversity and autism. My thinking has changed in dramatic, radical ways. It's been hard. It's been challenging. I mean, as a parent of 3 autistic persons, I've had to, it's been right in my face, okay? A lot of changes. And by the way, I recommended a book, that one right there, Neurotribes, by my friend Steve Silberman, is one of those books, along with Gary Prezant's Uniquely Human, which flipped my thinking around. But I want to ask you this question, because I know you see this firsthand. And let me just say, I was under the impression, wrong-headed impression for a long time, that people who were nonverbal, and 40% of autistic people are nonverbal, at least into some age. Some are never verbal. But I just connected sort of communication, intelligence, to being able to be verbal. And I realized it was wrong in doing that, especially now that some of my favorite authors in the world are nonverbal autistic adults. Thoughts on that speech? That's what you do.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. When you were talking about getting in trouble and stuff in school, I was just thinking about that as all behavior communication. And that's the first thing that and educators do understand that to some degree, and sometimes need to be reminded when it's coming right at them, but there's communication, and there's just incredible advances in terms of being able to access forms of communication that work for them. And then within that, really don't have access to a way to use language growing up, don't develop language in the same way that we do. And so being able to have that access and then have programming that matches that. So especially our people who use devices to talk, to communicate. It's a really different way of learning language, but it's basically a different language. But it's really great, especially the work of a company called Dynabox. They've done some really amazing things and continue to make communication more available.
But communication is the key word, right? Not making this presumption that if sounds aren't coming out of your mouth, you're not communicating as a human being.
Yeah.
We all communicate in lots of ways.
I want to read those books you're talking about. That's
See, there you go.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Steve.
All right, so the next question is for Miss Linda. In your time as a special needs job coach, when approaching prospective employers for your students, what seems to be the most misunderstood perspective about your students' future performance, and what's one thing you can do to help change that?
Well, I've job coached here in Texas now for almost a year and a half. And this year in particular, I decided, I was going to approach students in a different way. I wanted to know what they really wanted to do. Because previous students in talking with them and teachers, it's almost like, we know these students can work in fast food. True enough, they can work in fast food, but some of them do not want to work in fast food. And I really don't think that's fair if they can be given an opportunity to do something else. So I took it upon myself, I'm going to Round Rock Outlet, and I'm just going to go there every day, and I'm going to go into businesses and just talk to people, and kind of be persistent with this. Right now we have like 4 students working there. But I would go in maybe the 3rd time, and the manager would say, what do you think they can do? Can they do a portion of the job, part of the job, or can they do all of the job? And I said, when you were 17, 18, 19 years old, did you have the same feeling as a job for yourself? You wanted your first job, and you wanted to be given the opportunity to do that. So a lot of the managers would say, we will give them an opportunity, but we can't guarantee anything. And I said, fine, that's all we need is just that opportunity. So with giving the opportunity, they've continued to work the whole year there. So I think it's, you have to talk to people, just like Dave's saying. I think this communication, we've just got to put it out there. Times have changed, and I think a lot of employers now realize this world is changing, and employment has got to change.
And I think it's turning up the pressure in a good way. One of the things I so appreciate about what you just said is we're not talking about cookie cutter approaches to seeing human persons and even employment and other things as sort of just cookie cutter. We're starting to really open our eyes, I think, and employers are starting to follow suit, open eyes to see, and what we call it, human resources, treating people as resources. Well, they're not just resources. They're human persons working in your business, and they can add a lot of things, or even in your business. And a lot of my neurodivergent clients, autistic people, they really should be entrepreneurs. They just need resources. They need some capital. I know about that. They need opportunities provided to them to help them have their own business. So I think we short sell them a lot of times in that. So much variety, so much richness, and we all benefit by it, by seeing people in that way, as Linda does. Start to think of the individual and not as something you can just plop them in here. And I'm going to tell you, one of the things that upsets me a lot is when I go in to meet with, and this happens a lot at schools, I'm sorry, but they say, oh no, we cover all that. We've got all that worked out, all the employment opportunities they'll ever need, we have this program. And I say, well, tell me about it. I'm like, wow, it's going to be great. Well, Goodwill industry, I'm like, don't you do it. Don't start talking about places that you can have them go in and stack tattered clothing and get paid $3 an hour, and you're just going to put them on that's not honoring the person. That's not discovering their unique attributes and finding out what their heart wants them to do and what they can do. By the way, I'll add this one more thing. When I do assessments for occupations, I love hyper-focus areas with the autistic people I serve, okay? But I want to be real clear that I'm very gently and lovingly redirecting them to something that can be monetized and actually can make a living with it. A young woman I worked with a couple years ago, bless her heart, she had, I don't know if they could be counted at that point. She had every Matchbox car you could possibly have, and she knew, just look at them. That's a 1975, and the engine, she just knew it all, right? Those wheels were made in, okay, she knew it all. If she's going to be the curator of the Matchbox Cars Museum in Kentucky, there actually is one, never been there, that would be great. She would be the perfect person for it. But the likelihood of her doing that is not really high. So steering people, appreciating, honoring that hyper-focus area, that desire, that what should be a hobby, honoring that, and yet finding something in those strengths that could be a job for them, right? And that's what you're doing too. You're sifting and you're looking for those things.
So Linda actually does a lot more too. I've had several conversations with her where she takes it a step above and beyond. She'll ask me for interviewing just tips and tricks for them to kind of get through the process, because one, they're still 16, so it's going to be awkward no matter what. But two, they're dealing with their own insecurities about what we have as a society have put upon them.
Yeah.
So Linda takes it a step further, and we talk all the time about ways that she can get them through that process, since I work with youth myself, and just in general going through the norms of what every teen would have to go through during that process anyway. So she's selling herself short. She goes above and beyond for those kids, and they're really lucky to have her.
Well, Emily is great support too.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Do you want to conclude with it? Because I was getting really hot sitting up there.
Yeah.
I
My wondering sitting in this shade here, she's like a slow lady over here. And she's already got the red hair and red shoes. Yeah, thank you for that. Honestly, she was bravely leathering the elements over there.
It was great lighting.
So, Emily,
Your question, and back to what you asked Linda, is, and I just thought of this, sudden inspiration being with such wonderful people. Why don't we ask corporations, big businesses, why don't we ask Dell, why don't we ask them, why don't you guys create a community day where you can, it's voluntary, ask your executives to all come together, and let's do some job coaching and training, and let's do some role play, and let's have fun, and let's bring in people who are scared to death about getting interviews and all this kind of stuff, and social dynamics, and let's coach people with one of these organizations or companies to just do some good. Whoa. Am I thinking right? And Andy, you're a former corporate guy, right?
I don't see why not.
Dell actually does pride themselves on community involvement and has a number of activities every year for that, and team members are expected to volunteer
But
at least a certain number of hours.
it's
Have you asked them?
paying
how you-
parents about the children's.
That's fine.
But it's
Service
not,
takes care of different incomes in different areas.
Well, and again, you're going to get me going here because it's back to the easy path. We're not taking the hard path. We're cherry picking. And Krista knows this too. I say to people say, well, oh, David, what you do is so wonderful. So I guess you just work with, high functioning individuals. I hate that word, high functioning individuals. And I say, no, I work with anybody the universe brings me. I do not cherry pick my relationships or my care for other human beings. Whoever it is, if I can help in any regard, I will help. And I think we need to start thinking that way because we take these easy paths like, well, we're going to do some good. We're going to go down there and we're going to work with these people in that one agency and we're going to take the... Stop. That's a little compartment. We can just stop thinking that way. Am I being fair with that, Krista? Okay.
I like what Linda said about, what you think of as think back when you're 17 or 18 or whatever.
Exactly.
Because I think, like my kid forgets to do something, I'm like, but did I remember it? I forgot too.
Or did you want to or not?
Why should I expect my 14-year-old to remember it when I don't even remember text and ask him, or to remind him, or like, why do I expect him to do this? Because when I was that age, I didn't know to do that, or because you just it's hard to think back 20, 30 years to when you were born, to when you were 14 or 18 or whatever, and think, oh, I would have done it. Because we didn't know everything, we just,
That's good perspective.
And we're also still evolving in that process as neurotypical adults and kids ourselves. I mean, the interview process has changed immensely. I mean, I do so many Skype interviews and things, and it's just, it has changed and it has progressed, and I think we should, not do a disservice and not prepare them for what's to come. But like I said, Linda has been doing a great job of trying to get them acclimated to what now is happening.
And go to what she does.
Yeah.
Go to the employers and open those doors and windows to at least get people thinking along those terms.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yes. All right, so next question. I haven't heard a question in a little while.
There we go.
So Krista, this question is for you. On your Instagram post, Neurodivergent Rebel is what your handle is, but you posted a quote saying, masks are often created by mirroring other people, #take the mask off. Can you explain what take the mask off means and how we can help facilitate autistic people taking it off?
Yes, okay. So autistic masking, it's something that a lot of autistic people do, and it starts often very young with elementary school, and it'll be the subconscious even or conscious kind of packing away and hiding and camouflaging and trying to pass as non-autistic. I did it even too, and I didn't even know I was doing it because I wasn't diagnosed until I was 29. But it's like those little things that are kind of you, they're part of your body language, a lot of it they call autistic stimming, if you don't know what stimming is, like movements that are just things. People pick at you, people make fun of you, people tease you, and so you kind of realize, oh, don't do that in front of people, I'll get picked on for that, or I'm gonna get bullied for that. So it's like all these little things you're just kind of putting away, and you're just, for self-protection, you want to be invisible, so you, okay, well, if I sit still, and if I just act good, and if I'm socially appropriate, and all this is completely unnatural, say you're playing an actor in a movie, you're playing a character, and, they have different body language than you, and all that. You're trying to put on body language, and almost, that's not natural to you, and so that's a constant thing. It's not like it's easy, and it wastes mental energy, and it's exhausting, and it's really bad for self-esteem, because it basically says, who I am naturally isn't good enough. I have to be someone else to go out into the world. And it's really sad, because I hear parents saying that their kids start this in elementary school. They can already tell it starts in elementary school. And you get the kids that are, they maybe can hold themselves together all day, but by the time they get home at the end of the day, they're falling apart, and their parents are like, oh, you're good at school. Their teacher says, oh, but you come home and you're having a meltdown, or it's a nightmare, or you behave, you're not behaving well at home. The just can't hold it together anymore because they've just been contained all day.
So what are some of the ways that we as a society can help make them feel more comfortable?
Well, starting with schools, teachers, I know the teachers here, educators, really watching for that bullying, because the bullying starts early. It's unfortunate. The kids know there's something different about you, and if you don't have, I didn't have the label, so the kids were just like, oh, you're weird, you're weird, you're weird. Those are weird things you do. People had all kinds of horrible nicknames like Twitchy and Witch, and just, the names kids think of because, you've got something a little bit different. These kids know they're different already. So empowering them where it's okay. This is so-and-so. This is how they are. They're different. It's great. And making a point not to shame, these kids for doing things that they're just naturally inclined to do. Some of them maybe walking around talking to themselves or singing little songs to themselves, or they're walking around and flapping their hands because they're excited. This joy is just coming out. And even as adults, I'm like, well, happy. People are like, oh, you're being childish. Calm down. Okay, but I'm happy. Why can't I just be happy?
Yeah, I think, and Linda will probably speak to this too, but the level of quiet, behind the scenes bullying that goes on in our schools towards neurodivergent people or autistic people is intense. My youngest is 15, and not a day goes by that he doesn't come home with some kind of story about the things that have been said or hurtful, damaging things to him. He's a wise little old soul. He's very mature, and we've talked about it a lot of times, but it doesn't mean that it's right. So I think going into the schools is a great place to start because we nip a lot of that off early. I'm all for doing in just a very unique, engaging way, doing some neurodiversity training for young people in our schools so that they can start to see that humanity is not this one little box of normal and everything else is weird and to be attacked, but that we're all diverse already. By the way, when I say neurodiversity, y'all understand we're already neurodiverse. We just don't know it yet. We just don't want to accept it. La 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 la, I don't want to hear that. It's true. We are. We're neurodiverse. And I think when I think about autistic women and girls, I think they're especially hard to hit. And I know that because with being excluded and social connectivity and things, because my 17-year-old, I joke, and she throws something at me, she hates it. I joke that she's 17 going on 45. But 2 years ago, she's 17, she's 15, I said, how's school? We're talking, and she's like, oh, it's great. I'm friends with these girls and things, and I'm thinking, that's interesting. And she said, and she got really quiet, and she looked at me, and she said, do you want to know why I'm doing so well with all these friends in school? And I said, sure. She said, she literally says, this is 15 years old, it's because I mimic their social behaviors. And she said, I copy not the most popular girls. She says this. I copy not the most popular girls, but the successful ones at school. I watch what they do, and I do what they do, and I get accepted. What that means is she's being a social chameleon. She's a chameleon. And she's learned how to put on different masks, right? Depending on where she's at. But that's not who she is. That's not the real person that is my daughter, this human being. That's not who she is. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get more direct and more creative and find ways to teach young people who grow into older people like us how to accept persons as fully human persons, right? Yeah.
Well, that ends our questioning for the panel that I have, but if you guys have any more, you're welcome to.
If we're all neurodiverse, what's neurotypical mean? Because I've been throwing that term around. I'm a neurotypical kid, and I'm a neurodiverse.
I'll take it. So neurodiversity is a big umbrella, and then so neurodiverse is all brains. And then if you're specifically divergent, like autistic would be neurodivergent, or ADHD is neurodivergent. But neurodiverse is everyone, including all brains as a whole, autistic or not.
is neurodiverse. Okay.
So
everybody's-
neurotypical, yes, would be you're the majority now for neurotypical, for now.
Oh,
The majority.
now you know.
Right. But who knows? And you might not be the majority someday. Isn't that going to be funny if the tables are turned and all of a sudden, it's, because a lot of this, they say the social model is, if everyone was autistic and it was more strange to not be autistic, the world would be a really different place.
As it Twilight episode.
It would.
Yeah, it's on a whole bunch of new shows.
Does anybody ever see that? Some of the doctors do this thing where some of them had stars on their chest and some of them didn't, and there's the machine. It's like that. I mean, who's who has.
So for now, our language is neurodivergent and neurotypical, but I wish, maybe this will happen. I hope it happens, because every bit of my energy is going in this direction to see this happen, the full acceptance, full true neurodiversity. What if there's a day, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, where we say neurodiversity and people say, all right, so what? Everybody's different. There's no longer any distinctions. We're not like, well, they're different. We're all, you know what I'm saying? That's really what I would love to see happen. And I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, but I would love to just keep pursuing that until it does. So.
Any more questions?
Chris?
Question is kind of brought by comment on for jobs, phone interviews. I was kind of wondering, there are obvious convenience reasons for why employers like to do phone interviews, but do companies do things like that to sort of make the interview progress maybe a little bit easier by doing things like that? Certainly for me, I think not being face-to-face is probably helpful.
Whenever I used to do a lot of hiring, sometimes the person who was under me, so like a co-manager or someone or an assistant director, would do the screening, so to speak. So the phone interviews would be like, okay, if you can get past her lightning round of questions, then you can talk to me. And so I think that's where the sense of communication gets lost, because it's supposed to be an interview that you're supposed to be interviewing for a job, and the person who should be interviewing you knows exactly what they're looking for, knows what the job entails, but the person who is interviewing you is just doing what the person's left and told to.
Yeah.
So phone interviews, absolutely hate them. They should go away. I don't like Skype interviews either, because I'm like, what are you wearing down? It's too weird.
Yeah, and somebody's cat walks past them in the background.
And so now, even as I'm interviewing mentors for my program, I meet all of them face to face, so that they can get a sense of who I am, and I can get a sense of who they are. For whatever perks they have or whatever questions they have, I just like to face to face. There are some people who don't face to face or don't do well face to face, but I think it's up to us to kind of help them. If we're looking for the best candidate, we do have to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And I try to do that too, when I'm researching for jobs. Some people say, why don't you call before you go? No, I want that personal contact.
Yes, I agree.
And also I stress that fact, when they agree to give the student an opportunity, okay, then let me bring the student, you meet the student, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
See, I want to push more people to do work trials. Work trials, yeah. Because, with my current employer, I started kind of working with them part-time while I was still in another job. And for me, that let them know what I was capable of, and eventually they started giving me more and more and more and more, and now I'm there full-time. But it also gave me security, saying, okay, I like this, and if I don't like this, I can back out. Because I'm a former hiring manager, and I've hired people, and I know the interview process, and I've known it since I was really young. I got trained to interview people when I was about 18 or 19, working in fast food. So I took all of that and was like taking notes. Oh, this is what you should do. This is what they're looking for. So I know what hiring managers are looking for, and so that's been really great for me. But a lot of autistic people don't do well in that area. They don't know how to sell themselves. They don't want to brag on themselves. But if you let them, go to a job that they're good at and put them in the right seat to do something they're going to love and enjoy, and let their employer take a week to get to know them, you give them a chance to see if it's a good fit. That I love, work trials. Not always, but for some people, because some people don't love them either. But
Just give that opportunity.
yeah, the flexibility to say, if someone doesn't interview well, maybe there's another way we can still consider them, because not everyone's going to interview well.
And I'll take it one step further. What if we all together started thinking community connectedness? So in other words, for example, Chris and I have been working together. Chris is looking for a paid position as in museum sciences. He wants to work in curator. Well, is there anybody in this room who would know somebody that we can connect with? So, but we need to start asking those kind of questions. We need to start thinking, well, I've got this person sitting in front of me, and are we going to be brave enough to look this person in the eye and say, this may not be the job for you, but don't leave, because I like you, and I like what you've said to me lends itself to my believing that you belong in possibly this job. Have you thought about that? Can we start thinking in connected community ways and start inspiring people that? I mean, it wouldn't hurt, right?
So to start a meetup group? College?
Let's get another meetup group.
Not another meetup group.
Well, we can all meet up with other people, right? We can all meet up with fellow human beings and find out who they are, and then look to their best interest,
And I think one thing I wanted to add to what you said, Chris, I know you said you like to do trials. Even beyond the interview process, sometimes as an employer, you need to take it upon yourself to figure out how you're going to get the best productivity for you and what's going to make your employee happy. So taking it a step further and giving them a trial period in whatever situation you have going on, whether it's a cubicle or an open space work environment, and figuring out what is going to help them succeed instead of watching them crumble in front of people and kind of crash and burn. So I think that's important as well. And as employers, I know David, you're technically an employer. I'm technically an employer. Those are the things you look for. What kind of, instead of a workspace, we're looking for a cohabitating space where we can all kind of work harmoniously together.
I like that.
Without
That's good.
imposing or feeling like we're imposing.
Right.
That's better said.
Are new hires at certain jobs given mentors?
They should be. I hear a lot of people that just kind of get left to drift.
Yeah, I've been in a couple
And some people
situations.
can drift and you just stop.
Some people.
Yeah, I'm like, no, not
Not often enough. I think in general, for neurodivergent or not, if I had my way, every employer would have job coaches on site for any employee who's struggling. Whether, like I
Some
said,
people are going to say, they're not going to come forward and say,
well, you should know if your employees are struggling or not.
Right.
Because, if your employees are struggling, you should be, getting them on plan or, you're going to find out what to do to catch them from struggling, or are you just going to watch them struggle until they fall out?
But that's insightful leadership, right?
Yeah.
That's leadership that has the perspective of seeing people not just as products. And by the way, y'all forgive me, I've read a lot of books lately, like Team Human and things. I got this in my head, but it's true. We've got to stop treating each other like we're computers or we're machines. I'm going to download to you this. It's infected our language. We got to stop. Right? We're all human. We're not machines. Well, we need to stop treating employees like machines as well and start looking to them holistically. How can we do healthy things for one another?
It's unfortunate that one of the classic complaints people have about the younger generations now is that, they need to be constantly praised, they need to be constantly pounded on the head. Well, you need to give people, it's nice to be told whether I'm doing a good job before you decide not to completely mess up your entire system. Or before you fire me.
That's one thing, excuse me, that I plan to address with my supervisor too. I'm actually in special ed, the VOTE program. Then we have the FAC, and then they have other, I'm not sure how many it is, to be honest with you. That's great, but I think each department needs to set some type of standard so when you go up to that next level, you prepare for that next level.
To sort of benchmark.
Yes. I see what he's saying, yes.
Agreed. Andy?
I like what you were talking about earlier about diversity in tech companies, because having worked for one of the larger ones based out of Redmond. Which one was that? And there definitely was a lot of speaking to that, and I think they did a very good job in general. But on the autistic side, having a son who's autistic, is I agree with you. They tend to focus on just the more techy areas. Microsoft has like people that work in utilities and all sorts of areas most people wouldn't think of. Yeah. And so I think the way we need to hit them with that, not just Microsoft, but all the companies on that, is that when you're talking diversity, it's helping the people, it's helping neurodiversity by having those people there, but there's many other jobs they can do which can also help there, and they're not going to help, knowing my son, they're not going to just help the people that are autistic, they're going to help do things that other people would have never thought of, right, because they don't, at least my son doesn't think always, or straight line. Right?
No, and you're absolutely right. And okay, I know you guys. I saw you on Facebook traveling. I know you're travelers. So, if you or anybody else been to actually been to a real, true rainforest in the world? Anybody been to a rainforest? Okay, so imagine a rainforest, if you will, with only one kind of bird and one kind of, let's throw in a lizard or something. That's all. That's all you get in this entire rainforest. Well, that's ridiculous, right? I mean, rainforests are incredible. Teeming is a great word. Teeming, seething with life and diversity and biodiversity, and all of it is affects each other, and it's amazing. It's an amazing biosystem, right? And that's healthy. So why don't we think of that with our workplaces and our workspaces? Why don't we think biodiversity, our diversity, neurodiversity, would actually be a healthy system? Why don't we? And by the way, I borrowed that from Steve Silliman, because she's read Neurotribes and she knows I'm talking about Steve's example, and Steve would probably smile and go, yeah, okay. Anyway, it's true.
One of the things you were talking about that was interesting too was this whole idea of when you meet somebody and you're talking to them and you say, you don't quite fit here, but you fit great over there.
Yes.
In that, I was actually trained to do that just as a networking skill.
Yes.
So when you talk to somebody, you're like, hey, I know somebody you need to talk to that does this.
Yes.
And then you have this other, you end up sending them off with like 6 different names and phone numbers of people that they need to go talk to. And that's just not a skill that anybody teaches these days.
Which is why networking is probably most painful. You get a lot of, when they call it spray and pray, so you get a bunch of business cards with no connections. You have nowhere to put them except they're holding a nice little place on a shelf, but you haven't connected with that person. You haven't figured out exactly what it is they need. If they're with, like, I've run into people who have great jobs, very lucrative, but they're unhappy for a specific reason. And I've also known companies who can fulfill exactly what they're looking for, aside from their monetary desires. So I think what you have is desired at any networking event, connecting agents.
Well, it's not even just a networking event. It's just like if you're talking to somebody one-on-one, and then what you do after that is you actually email two people, connect them together, and say.
Right.
But what the element you're talking about, which is missing from most of our cultural understanding of networking, what you're talking about is story. You're talking about human narrative. You're talking about understanding people. Today, how many people have been to these business networking events? Okay? Take this snowblower, load it up with your business cards, and just shoot them, right? Hopefully they'll lodge in somebody's pocket, right? Okay. And we call that networking? No, that's not. It's some kind of advertising or something, but it's not real networking. Networking is when I come up to Andy and I say to Andy, tell me your story. Tell me who you are. Tell me about yourself. Tell me your background. Tell me about your family. Just tell me about you, and then I'm going to work out the details for myself about this person, and they're explaining it to me. That's what you're saying.
But I don't think that's something that's valued as much as it.
Well, we're going to change that.
And I think they don't know that it's not valued because there's not
They don't
enough
know.
people with those skills
They don't know.
for them to emulate. Right, exactly.
Yep.
And this is why with my program, the Empowerment Network, we teach kids like these are the ABCs of just talking to people, not just networking, but connecting.
Connecting.
You know, we go right, and even though we focus on career exploration, there is still at the base of it all how you connect with people. That you know, you could go through a job interview, and the way you connect with them gets you the job. You know,
Exactly.
so I think those are some things that are missing, like I said, in the networking events or networking meetups and whatnot. But they don't know it's missing because they don't have you to show them that it's not there. You know, they don't have enough of what it needs to look like to go off of for reference.
Yeah.
So, but it's very, very important skill.
Need more life coaches for all of us.
Those networking events as an autistic person are terrible.
I know
so much. I go and I have trouble reading body language and facial expressions, especially people I don't know. So it's like I can't tell if the people at the event are receptive to me walking up to talk to them or not. Until I walked up and started talking, and then maybe I realized eventually, oh, this person has no interest in talking to me. It's not fun for me. That's not my thing.
Krista, can I mention something Krista said? This is really important. I want everybody to at least leave here with this knowledge tonight. One thing, I've heard it, and it's an absolute, utter misconception, is that autistic people are not empathetic, okay? That they don't have emotions, okay? I'm going to crush that, okay? Because that is absolutely untrue. The autistic people I know, including Krista, are some of the deepest wells of emotions you have ever met. Most passionate, artistic, beautiful people, okay? This is my word picture, and she knows I'm good at word pictures, it's like frequencies, okay? You remember those old radios with the frequency dials? So autistic people, let's say they're on frequency 88.6, okay? And neurotypical people are on 83.2. They're on different frequencies, and what we do as neurotypicals, and we are guilty of this, I'm guilty at times of doing this myself, is we expect autistic people to come to our frequency. We need to stop doing that. We need to start going, because they're already under fire. They're already hunkered down, the world, stop. We need to start going to their frequencies. We need to start finding ways to include them in dialogue, reach out to them, do not have this stupid presupposition that they don't have emotions, because that's ridiculous, right?
You got some emotions over there?
Oh yeah. I'm an emotional mess. I can't, I hate it. I used to make fun of my mom for this when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was a lot less emotionally expressive than I am now for certain things. Like, you see someone crying on a movie, and I'm instantly crying. And I can't turn it off. I'm like, I can't look at this, because it's like,
Very deep.
instantly.
I have a question about, speaking of emotions and social skills.
Yes.
I have a son who's 21. He is not diagnosed on the spectrum, but we think he should be. Maybe he's got some of those traits, hints of it. Then I'll hear another person that adults that have observed him, and they go, I just think he's shy. I just think he's shy, because he is very shy, and maybe he's both, and maybe he's just shy, and he's definitely shy. But so I don't know. He's 21. He doesn't think anything's wrong with him. I don't know if he'll ever get a diagnosis. Number one, is that important? I would like to. The word autism has a stigma. And people have even called him the autistic one. So, I don't know. Do y'all wish we could drop? Depression has its name, and all these illnesses have their name. What if we just drop the autism name?
I think we're gonna have to grow out of it. The thing about autistic people 80 years ago. Come on, historians. Oh, that's right. There was no autism 80 years ago because they didn't have a name for it. But those people got along fine. If they were understood and equipped and encouraged and loved on, they did just fine. In fact, we probably have the lights on because one of them, who's our electrical genius friend, who was definitely autistic, Edison stole his patents, by the way. Yeah. And he won a lawsuit after his death, by the way, against Edison. But we didn't think in those terms. We've almost created a false dichotomy, and it's not healthy for us. It's not healthy for anybody. So what I think is going to happen, to answer your question, Renee, we're going to have to grow up. We're all going to have to grow up. We're going to have to get over this thing, and we're going to have to face it, and we're going to have to talk about it. And I'm going to bring us to a close here, because we needed to talk, okay? And we need to take this. I'm going to put you guys in charge of talking to other people, okay? And we need to talk more as a community, as a group of fellow human beings, about neurodiversity and inclusivity and seeing all persons as uniquely human.
That's a great way to end it. Yeah,
Okay.
great.